Friends, this is a very important episode. This is like the meaning of life for Audiophiles, because I'm going to lay it all out. And there's going to be an important summation at the end, so stick around. But first of all, I have to give credit to my pal Sean over at Zero Fidelity for inspiring this episode. This episode could be called Wake Up Audiophiles. Chasing perfect sound is a really dumb idea. And the reasons you're not going to get these things, no matter how smart you are, how wealthy you are, how much money you can throw at the idea, you're never going to get there. And the reasons are many, but we'll start with two really obvious ones. The recordings are not made to sound good. I mean, they're made to sound good, but they're not made to sound natural or real or organic or believable. That's not the purpose that engineers set out to do when they start a session. They're making records to have a sound that they like, the engineers like, the band likes, the producers like, presumably the record company approves of, and they know something that audiophiles are not their prime demographic, right? They're making music to be heard in cars, planes, automobiles, rowboats, out in a park, at the beach, on mountaintops, but almost never, ever anymore listened to in someone's home as the prime function, right? They may have music on in their home, but they're doing other stuff. So we're the only ones left, it seems. I'm exaggerating for effect. We're the only ones left who are actually listening to music at least some of the time without doing something else. Everybody else is distracted. Let's put it that way, right? So no one's going to make records to say, wow, my job is to make this piano, this 9-foot Steinway grand piano, sound like it's right there in your living room. No, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to make a piano sound that they like. Well, I should say the only kind of engineer or record company that would make a recording like that would be an audiophile label. That's a side issue. I will link to some of the best ones ever made with a company that I am sometimes associated with, Chesky Records. I have a whole bunch that I recommend, and those recordings were made to sound as real and believable and natural as possible. And many other audiophile labels do the same, but not popular music labels in rock or jazz or even classical do not make recordings to try to sound real. So if you're chasing perfection by getting a better amplifier or speaker or whatever, you ain't getting there. That's a fool's errand. You're not going to go there. You're not getting there. Not even close. Because if it isn't in the recording, you can't reproduce it. You can't reproduce what's not there. And then, and by the way, before I get off recordings, you'll notice that if you just go through a stack of recordings or a playlist of files, they all sound different, right? If you went from one piano recording to the next, they all sound completely different because they were recorded in different places under different circumstances for different purposes. So there's no consistency of even what a piano sounds like or even an acoustic bass. Or forget about instruments. Singers, man. Sometimes they're really up close and full and rich, and sometimes they're really tiny, and sometimes they're bathed in reverb. They're all over the place. There's no consistency as to what a vocal should sound like. It should sound like, well, as my friend Alex pointed out in another video that I'll link to, he said every time he records a singer, what they want to sound better than they actually do in real life. That's their goal when they make records. They want to make records that make them sound bigger and stronger and more powerful than they actually really are. So they don't want to make a recording that sounds like themselves. They want to make a recording that sounds better than they actually do. And better may be better, but it isn't natural. It's not making an accurate recording of what went down at the session. Okay, so we got the recording part out of the way. Next is the room. Your room, and this is one of the things that Sean pointed out, wasn't designed for sound, right? It's a rectangle usually, right? Or it's a rectangle that opens up into other rectangles and stuff. If you forget about hi-fi, if you put a drum kit in that room, it probably would sound pretty awful because it would be bouncing around that room and just nasty, really, really nasty if someone was hitting that drum kit like they would on a session or in a concert, right? So, or a grand piano. But most music that, let's say, popular music, isn't designed for small spaces. It's designed for clubs, which are a lot bigger than your living room, right? Or concert halls, or arenas. So again, getting there, it's just not possible. So even if you had a recording that was, let's say, recorded with that intent to sound as real as possible, and you had the most perfect speakers ever created, and you stick them in your room, you're not going to hear you're not going to hear it. You're not going to hear that perfection that you're chasing. Even then you wouldn't hear it, right? So part of the big goal here is just to chill, relax, stop chasing this unattainable thing. It's crazy. It's crazy that we're tying ourselves up in knots trying to do this thing that we're never going to get, which answers the own question, which kind of answers its own question. We just keep doing it because that's what we want to do. Like, if I get this better amp, if I get this better speaker, or if I get this better cable, it's good. Or, you know, forget digital, I'm going to go analog. Or forget analog, I'm going to go digital. I'm going to get closer to that thing. You're not going to get closer to the thing. You're going to get a different sound. And maybe you'll like that sound more, which leads me to the next part of this little rant. Here's what I've learned in my decades and decades of experience as an audiophile, as a salesman, as a sort of a recording engineer at times, and a writer and a reviewer for a very long time. Here it is. We like what we like, and then we rationalize what we like as being more accurate or neutral or something. Or some of us play that game, sort of convince ourselves that, okay, we're getting there. And getting there is part of this thing, though. I'm not trying to downplay that. It's this searching part, the journey part of this is definitely all part of the experience of being an audiophile. But we just rationalize a lot that what we're doing is that thing that's getting us closer to it. So maybe another way of saying that is we're trying to get like a suspension of disbelief that we can just go with it. We can say, yeah, they're the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore. They're right there. They're not really. They're not even close to what it really sounded like. But we can go with the flow and think, yes, that's it. You have to know what live music sounds like. Now, of course, live music comes in at least two varieties, right? There's the amplified type that's going through a PA system, which is by far the most common. And then there's purely acoustic music. Like when you go to see a concert at Carnegie Hall in New York City, it's pretty much, as far as I can tell, acoustic. It's not coming out of a speaker. It's coming out of the orchestra filling Carnegie Hall. And there you go. But most music in concert is going through speakers. So you're listening to a big hi-fi system filling a very large concert space, right? And what are those speakers in a concert hall? Horn speakers, right? Horns are where it's at for PA sound. So if you want to have that PA sound at home, I wonder what would be the best speaker to create the sound of a horn PA system. I don't know, horns? So there you go. If that's it, if that's the goal, trying to do that with electrostatic speakers or panel speakers or omnidirectional speakers, it's kind of a sideways approach, don't you think? If you want horn sound, live sound, PA sound, you might as well get horn speakers. And Klipsch's, you may have noticed if you watch more than one or two of these videos, might be a good place to start, if that's your goal. But I do want to stress this. You have to know what you're looking for in order to find it, or at least get closer to it. If you're just searching for vague things like, I want a super transparent sound, or I want a neutral sound, and oh my God, the neutral thing just drives me up the wall, because what is neutral? Now you might think that that studio speakers designed for professionals instead of crazy neurotic audiophiles, if you said, I'm going to get a pro speaker, it's designed to be a tool to hear exactly what's going down in the session, that there we go. That's the way to get there. And I think that some audiophiles have done that. They're not terribly popular with most audiophiles. I can't remember too many times I was at a show or a dealer who was selling true pro monitor speakers to consumers, but you can get them. They're not going to not sell it to you. So if that's what you want, go for it. If that was literally true, that studio monitors were way more accurate and neutral than audiophile consumer speakers, well, then they would all start to sound the same, right? Because they'd all be neutral. And neutral, if one was truly neutral and the other one was less so, well, then they would sound different, right? But they all sound different. Absolutely. Again, my friend Alex, the recording engineer, I did a video about that. All studio monitors sound different. So there's just because it's pro, it's going to be better in the sense of being more neutral. No, not at all. Sorry, you're not going to win that argument. The quest for real, one way to get there quickly, or closer to it, I should say, is to play music at more or less, or at least approaching realistically loud volumes for that type of music. But it is possibly worth investigating in terms of your journey, your quest to find that reproduction that sounds real, is to, at times where conditions allow, listen at realistically loud levels. Don't screw up your hearing doing it. I almost never listen that loud. But just for educational purposes, let's put it that way, try listening at realistically loud levels. And then, let's say you do that for 10 minutes, then turn it down 10 or 15 dB. And then go like this and say, yeah, it's different. It's no longer real, because real music doesn't sound like that. It's not that quiet. That's it. So I am going to begin my summation, starting with something I said a few minutes ago, because that's what this is really all about. We like what we like, what we prefer. What we prefer for us is good. What we don't prefer is not good, right? So if you lean towards analog, if you lean towards playing vinyl, that's your thing, that's what you got. You've made that choice. And you said analog sounds better than digital. Or if you're on the other side of the ledger and you think I way prefer digital and I think analog's not happening for me, okay, that's one angle there. Then there's the question of tubes or solid state. You're a tube person, you're a solid state person, those are your choices. They each sound different. Which one sounds more real? Well, like the all analog and digital, tube, solid state. That's up to you to figure out for yourself that tube sounds more like real live instruments, or solid state does. Then there's a question of speakers. Horns, or magnepans, or electrostatics, or omnidirectional, or just good old-fashioned boxes, or forget the old-fashioned, a box dynamic speaker with drivers flush mounted to the front baffle. They all sound very different. Those different types of speakers sound really, really different. If you feel that one of those types gets you closer to that illusion of reality, bingo, good, you figured it out. So each of these elements of being an audiophile are going to sort of determine your course towards your personal nirvana, because that's all you're going to get. That's the best you can get, is figuring out what works for you perfectly, to use the word that I started with in the beginning of this. Which one works perfectly for you to create that illusion of real live music happening against all odds. So now, after all of that, I can say to you, relax, chill, put on some music in whatever format, over whatever system, tube, solid state, analog, digital, whatever it is, and then you're good. You're done. Enjoy. Stop being a neurotic audiophile and just be satisfied for a while. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you dig it, please subscribe. Hit that button right down there. When you do, the subscribe button, when you do, you'll see that icon of a bell. Hit that bell. If you don't hit the bell, you're going to miss out. You're not going to hear about every new episode as it comes up. You can check me out on Instagram at steve.guttenberg, on Twitter at AudiophiliacMan. My favorite of all these, really, definitely by far, is the Patreon at patreon.com/audiophiliac. There's playlists here for speaker reviews and headphone reviews and music reviews and component reviews. And my personal favorite of all the playlists are the interviews. Interviews with the biggies in the business, like John Atkinson from Stereophile, Nelson Pass, John Grado, Matt and Harry Weisfeld from VPI. The list goes on and on and on. There's got to be 30 or 40 interviews. And like I said, that's really, if you said, Steve, what's the best part of doing your job? I would say doing those interviews is the best. But doing these rants, like this one, when I'm on a roll, I feel like I'm on a roll, those are really good too. And I'd also like to add, on a more serious note, I hope everyone's well out there. Be careful, be safe, wash your hands a lot. You can clean your records and also clean your hands for at least 20 seconds. And now my work really is done. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.